Lads, lasses, and the rest of the masses, welcome back to another retroactive Feeling Blue. Now I'm doing this the day after the game because pretty much there was a lot of toxicity surrounding the game last night that I didn't want to get involved with. And if you saw my TikTok that I posted last night, you will kind of understand where my head is at when it comes to that kind of thing. I'm not going to be engaging with that anymore. So we're going to be doing my retroactive Feeling Blue now and kind of objectively look at the game of football rather than the politics behind the rest of it. And yeah, we'll kind of talk about what we did well, what we did poorly, and yeah, just talk about the game in general. First things first though, we need to do the bingo card, which I've got up here. So we'll go quickly do the bingo card because that's something we always do. And as I said, the guys in the Discord really help me with these. I usually ask those guys to kind of add things to the bingo card that they want to see. So if you want to be a person involved with that, join the Discord. The links are down in the description as always. But yeah, so we'll fill in the bingo card. We did get a Sanchez return, so we can tick that off. We didn't get a clean sheet. We did see Aaron Anselmino on the bench, so I'm going to tick this off. No Gusto goal or assist. Amugu again on the bench, so he gets ticked off. Last week's scapegoat again. I'm kind of gonna mix this one with the grass is always greener, because we saw this again. So this happens all the time, and it's always with our wingers where everyone says after Pedro Neto comes off the bench and he scores his goal, everyone says, oh, Neto should be starting the next game, and then Neto starts the next game and then he doesn't do well, and then everyone claims that Noni should be playing, and it's just silly. So that's what that's for. Caicedo booked for a clean tackle. I think he got booked for an actual, for the first time ever, he actually got booked for an actual foul, so not going to be doing that. Game of two halves. This was not a game of two halves, it was very much a game of the same half twice, and we didn't really what's the word, get into the game at all. Player book for Descent, I believe we did get this. I'm not sure, I'm going to take it off though. I believe we did. Fight breaks out, we got this after the tackle on Cuckoo. We kind of knew that was going to happen. No VAR costs us. Now I'm going to tick this off. I'm not going to talk about it much because I'm going to talk about that later in the actual Feeling Blue whilst we do our points. Cole but no goal. Again, this is for when Cole sets up a chance and it doesn't work out because our forwards are terrible. Yeah, that happened. Kukurea booed because lol. Yep, he got booed all game. Someone scores a worldie. I don't think anyone really scored any worldies in this game. We didn't get to go to extra time or penalties. I don't think we got the Bob Marley chant. We definitely got this, and in the stream before, in the pre-match stream, this got ticked off, the Mono Australia thing. So we nearly get one bingo here on the line here. If Cuckoo would have scored, we would have got it. For the free space, I always like to do a free space. I'm going to do this for Palmer scoring yet another very, very weird goal, because he scored 2 in a row now where it's like they haven't really counted because they've been own goals, but been very, very odd the way that he got his goal. But now let's actually head into the actual points. Now, usually I have 7 points for these. I think I've got 7 points, but one of them is kind of a joint point, so it's about 6. I'm going to rag on all of the bad things first and then talk about the good things, or the good and medium things, because I don't want to stay on the bad, negative stuff too much, because it doesn't help. The first things first I'm going to talk about is Nkunku. Now, I'm not going to completely blame him, because again, this is just not his position. He does not play as a striker, he does not play as a 9, but there is at times there is reason for me to believe that there is more that he can be doing if he is playing in this position. I feel like he can be making more runs. I feel like he can stop dropping deep as much as he is, and kind of he basically alleviates all of the pressure that we have on the back line, because he always drops deep and our other players are also trying to drop deep. We need runners in behind. It's the reason why Jackson is so valuable, and that's going to be the joint point here, is that the second thing is for Nicholas Jackson, and specifically for Jackson not being there and his injury. Now, obviously this is not blaming Jackson for his injury, I'm just saying it's a circumstance of him being injured, is that it very much shows how poor this Chelsea side is when we do not have Nicholas Jackson in the team. And I think a lot of people get on his back, and people are always saying, oh, Jackson's not clinical enough, he's not a 20 goal a season striker, he's terrible, we need to replace him, blah 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 blah. And I always say, I think it's absolutely stupid to think that way. I think it's very, very silly for people to discredit the work that Jackson does off the ball. And not only the stuff he does off the ball, but also his hold-up play and the fact that he brings us into play so much. And I think that this game was a prime example of that, where in this game, if we had Nicholas Jackson, I guarantee we would have won this game 3-1. I guarantee it. Because he would have been the one making the runs in behind. He would have been the one that was helping us in transition. He sure as hell would not have randomly passed it across goal when he was through on goal like Nkunku did. And yeah, we would have done so much better if we had Jackson or Mark Guiu, who was also injured at the time, on this game. And I think that this is part of the reason why I don't like blowing this result out of proportion like a lot of other people are, because everyone's saying that we're in a crisis. I don't think we're in a crisis at all. I think we just had a pretty bad game because we are missing our main striker, and for a few other factors too. Let's talk about something else that I think I kind of need to address. And as I said, I spoke about this on the TikTok, and the bad point here is for the fan base, and just for the anger and the vitriol that the fan base puts out every single time we have a bad result. As I said, I spoke about this more on my TikTok, so if you want to go check that out, you can. I'll go a bit more in depth with it, because again, I don't want to really spend time talking about it, but it's just, it's saddening to me, the fact that in a time of need, when our Chelsea team needs our support now more than ever, the fans have completely turned on them. They've turned on the owners, they've turned on the sporting directors, they've turned on the players, and it's just horrible, and it doesn't help anyone, and it's just going to make us play worse. Fourth point, I'm going to talk about what I genuinely believe is the reason why we lost this game, because I will say this, and I think that this is a good, accurate descriptor of this game. I do not think that we deserve to win this game. With the way that we played, I do not think we deserve to win the game. However, I also do not think that we deserve to lose the game. And the fact that we have lost the game to a horrendous refereeing decision is very, very frustrating for me. We have seen 2 blatant handballs in the build-up to this goal, and neither have been given. And that is just the icing on the cake for a generally awful refereeing performance from the referees today. It was... How can I say this? There's a thing which I like to say where people always like to talk about how there's a 12th man effect when it comes to playing in your home stadium, and in these kind of up there kind of good environments for the home team, like your Amexes, like your St James's Park that I always mention. There's an inherent 12th man effect you get from that. But I think people forget the other factor of that, and that's the 13th man effect, where if you are loud enough, if your crowd is annoyed enough, and if your crowd is being loud and getting on the referee's back as much as possible, the referee will eventually start giving you things for no reason, genuinely for no reason. There were so many decisions in this game where I felt like the referee had been conned by the fans, had been conned by the players, and in general was just having a complete lack of being able to keep the game under control. Because there was a few things, there was a few things in here that made me rather annoyed. I think Carlos Baleba made far too many fouls in this game to have stayed on the pitch. There was a horrendous scissor style challenge, which they always say is dangerous, which personally I don't think is always a red, but that is what they've been saying in the recent years, that doing that scissor motion is a very dangerous tackle. That happened to Cucurella, didn't happen, and because obviously he gets cheered for getting hacked down because the Brighton fans are really weird, to be honest, which is very funny, but there we go. Yeah, he gets that decision wrong. Obviously, again, the handball decision, which is the major one. There's a clear handball in the penalty box as well. That's not given for on the opposite side of the pitch, and it's just every single 50-50 going their way, and it's annoying because it's something you kind of have to accept when you go to when you are playing away from home and you're playing in these big stadiums. But it's sad to me how low the standard of refereeing has dropped in the terms of they can just do this every single game and there's absolutely no repercussions for them. I always talk about it and I say that it's the worst thing in football is the referees, especially in England. In England, the referees are just genuinely horrific and the standard is not good enough. And it's not just the referees. I will say the referees didn't do particularly well today, but the thing which is more annoying, and this is more aiming at the FA, why is there no VAR? And I spoke about this briefly with the bingo card, but we got absolutely screwed over by the fact that there was no VAR in this game. I do not understand why in a game with where there is two teams that are both from the Premier League and we both have the technology in both of the stadiums, why VAR is not in operation. And the fact that it is in operation in the next round, in the 5th round, is genuinely mind-boggling to me. It doesn't make any sense because all that is saying to me is that they don't think that any team that doesn't have the technology for VAR is going to be able to get past the 4th round. That's what that's suggesting to me. It's such a kind of classist, disgusting way of thinking about the game and saying, oh well, the small teams can't get this far, so it doesn't matter. Now when we're in this part, we can have the VAR. And that just really bugs me in general, but I think the system is stupid. I think that a small team that are going to a Premier League stadium, for example, they should be able to have the privilege of having VAR in their games. And obviously this is not one of those cases because it's two Premier League teams, but I think that the whole system in general is completely backwards and stupid. The fact that they just go, oh well, we don't need VAR for this anymore, we'll just let the referees do it themselves. We've seen the issue that we had with the Manchester United Leicester game where there's a blatant offside that's not picked up. The same thing happens in one of the other games too. We see stupid situations like we did in this game where Tariq Lamptey handballs the ball very, very blatantly in the build-up to this goal, and then Kaoru Mitoma also handballs it before he scores. Neither of them are picked up by the referees, and absolutely both of them would have been seen with one VAR check. And it's annoying because we lose the game because of it. And the thing which is frustrating is that for games like this where it is high stakes and it's knockout competitions, it's knockout football, these types of decisions can completely ruin your run for these competitions, right? And if you think about it, this is a game that goes to extra time and penalties. Even teams like us, like Chelsea, that have played really badly in this game, I'm not saying that we deserve to win. I don't think we did deserve to win. I'm saying we didn't deserve to lose in the way that we did. The games like this with Chelsea being bad, it's one of those things where you know that we are a team that would do better in a penalty shootout because we have the higher quality players. It's a team where if we managed to get to extra time, we probably wouldn't concede because everyone will be tired and we know how to grind out results at times because we are obviously a team that can do that. And for us to basically not be given that opportunity because the referees have just decided to let Brighton play basketball is just frustrating. As I said, I rag on the referees quite a lot, so I don't want to talk about that too much. And that's basically just the reason why I say this is because it's not because I'm salty at the referees. It's more so because I'm annoyed at the fact that our fan base has gone absolutely crazy at this result because we're doing this and the sporting directors and blah 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 blah, when in reality the only reason we've lost this game is because of a terrible refereeing decision. Let's talk about another problem. This is going to be the final point in the bad box, and I'm going to talk about things a little bit in a more positive light. It's specifically for the combination of Neto and Gusto on that right hand side, because they absolutely, both of them, got torn to shreds by Tariq Lamptey, who had a terrible game against Nottingham Forest and was very, very overwhelmed in that game. And we, for some reason, just could not follow that same blueprint and do the same thing. Now, I understand Enzo Maresca's tactics, and I'm a person that appreciates them more than most, but it is getting to the point where it's annoying seeing Malo Gusto playing out on this right-hand side and not making overlaps. It's annoying to seeing Malo Gusto and Neto playing on this right-hand side and not pushing up really high and pinning that back the fullbacks. The amount of joy that Tariq Lamptey got from his position, being able to not only get back and defend and completely shut out Neto for the majority of the game, but also be able to then break on us and get up high the pitch when Gusto is up the pitch and he's just somehow not there to defend those transitions when he's not up the pitch enough anyway to contribute to the attack, is rather frustrating and genuinely quite embarrassing for Premier League footballers of this quality. I think that, again, I'm not going to blame them solely, but obviously there's an issue with the whole. There's an issue with the profiles that we have now, where Gusto is a player that is very, very good. We know this from his first season. He was excellent. He was one of our best players in that last season. But he's a player that very, very obviously can only play one way. And if he's not playing that way, he doesn't seem to be very good. like we've been seeing for the majority of this season. I think that he really needs to be occupying that wide space instead of Neto in this game, and being able to kind of provide that ball out there and stretch the defense, but also get in behind, try and get balls across. Now, maybe there's a case to be argued that because we didn't have a focal point in the box, because we have Nkunku, we wanted to play more inside rather than going out wide and putting balls into the box. But if that's the case, then Gusto should just not be should not be getting up the pitch and playing in this midfield role. He should just be playing as a defender, and not being able to be caught out by these transitions by Tariq Lamptey. As I said, that's more on Maresca, but it's an aptitude thing as well, because I feel like even if you've been instructed by the coach to do certain things, there is a certain responsibility you need to take as a player to just say, you know what, this isn't working. I'm gonna make a change myself and just start getting into positions that are going to be more annoying for the opposition. And neither of these two decided to do that. Didn't really see it on the other side either, but I think that Cucurella in particular had a better game than Gusto did, so I'm going to be picking on the right hand side for the majority of this. That being said, let's move into the medium box. This is going to be the only one thing in this medium box, and I'm going to be giving it to Trevor Chalobah. I saw a lot of hate for Trevor Chalobah online yesterday, which I don't really understand. I think that he was relatively good throughout the game, but again, like I said with Colwill in the West Ham game, he had a relatively decent game, but he made the one mistake for the goal, and for their first goal. I think that the thing is with this, it's not just Chalobah's fault. I know he loses his man in the box, and that's what people are going to pick on, but it's actually the move before that I want to pick, or which I want to pick up on here. It's a combination of just a complete miscommunication between Trevor Chalobah and Robert Sanchez, because Sanchez should just be running out and claiming this ball, and he tries to do that, but Chalobah decides to head it off his hands, and because of that, that's why he's going in here. But as I said, for the majority of the game, I think he was pretty solid. Him and Tosin, I think they were both pretty solid. I think he was pinning down his man very much as he could anyway, for the most part. So I'm not going to rag on him too much about that. I don't think he was as terrible as most people are going to say, but obviously, when you do make mistakes and you are in the limelight in that regard, people are going to rag on you. I'm not going to do that. I just think that it's just one terrible moment in an otherwise kind of okay game for Trevor Chalobah, and I wanted to highlight him specifically because he's getting so much hate online. The one player that I'm going to be talking about here that goes in the good box, I'm going to leave this on a positive note, because I think that for all the talk about our sporting directors being terrible and not being able to get the best out of our players, and the manager being terrible and all this horrible talk, there is one shining light in this team, and that is a player that we paid an absolute shit ton of money for, and that's Moises Caicedo. And he was utterly amazing in this game. I usually say with Caicedo that because he puts in an 8 or 9 out of 10 every single week, I rarely ever actually recognize him in these videos or in these streams when I do them after the games, because he goes about his work and he does it so well pretty much every game. This was a standout performance for me for one reason in particular, is the fact that not only was he doing the things which he usually does, which is his tenacious tackling, his intercepting, his pressure, his ability to kind of protect the back line in better than anyone else on this earth. And not only was he doing that in this game, but the thing which was really impressed me about him today in the game yesterday was his distribution and the fact that he took the responsibility to be the one to try and play make. Now, we obviously didn't have Enzo in the team from the start, so he took the responsibility to be the one that's going to be playing those long balls, and obviously Palmer tried to do the same thing at times, but with Palmer it's a bit of a more difficult thing to do because he's obviously further up the pitch, whereas Caicedo was just lining balls from that kind of quarterback position for the majority of the game, and majority of them were accurate, and the majority of them were able to kind of get us going in transition. As I said, there's the ball in particular I like to point out is the one up to Nkunku, which eventually we just do not get a goal from somehow. I still am baffled sitting here at the day after, still completely baffled how that pass has not ended up in a goal, because it's a stellar pass. And as I said, because I don't really recognize Caicedo in these videos very often. I thought I'd give him his own spotlight today, because yeah, he was just phenomenal. And I said him, there was a few other players that I felt played well. As I said, Cucurella I think played well. He's another one that kind of always puts in a 7 or 8 out of 10, but in particular I think Caicedo was by far our man of the match, and was just absolutely everywhere as usual, but also being the one to kind of try and provide and get us further up the pitch. And because of that, usually I would do a poll whilst we're doing the streams, but because this is a retroactive one, I'll put Caicedo in as the true blue for today. We'll have to wait until the next game against Brighton again in the Premier League, which we've got 2 games against them in a row, to see whether we can better this result. But if you can't wait until then, perhaps check out this video on screen in the meantime. Thank you guys so much for watching as ever, and remember, in the rain or in the dry, keep that blue flag flying high. Come on, you Blues.